China, Russia, and the rest of BRICS have been trying to kill the US dollar for years, and now they've been handed a golden ticket to do it. The Strait of Hormuz is functionally paralyzed, with commercial tanker traffic down a staggering 90% this year, and Iran is actively turning the world's most critical energy choke point into a Chinese yuan enforcement zone, and it is designed to permanently break the US dollar. My name's Nick. I've been a professional investor and unprofessional trader for 24 years. Let's figure this thing out together. So the media keeps telling us that the US dollar's dominance in global oil trade is completely invincible. The petrodollar, they call it. They point to the fact that roughly 80% of global oil transactions are still conducted in dollars. And they tell you that there is like absolutely nothing to worry about. I mean, whenever they say there's nothing to worry about, it kind of worries me, right? Anyway, when you see Brent crude oil spiking past $100 a barrel and freight rates quadrupling, they say it's just a temporary supply chain hiccup, which is complete nonsense, really. I mean, over the very short term, maybe they're right, but structurally, it's a massive lie because they are conveniently forgetting to mention what is actually happening in the Persian Gulf right now. Iran is allowing a limited number of oil tankers to pass through the strait, but there's one massive non-negotiable condition attached to this safe passage. The cargo must be traded in Chinese yuan instead of the US dollar. Now, let's put some numbers to this so you understand the terrifying scale of what's actually happening here. So historically, an average of 20 million barrels per day of crude oil and petroleum products transit through that strait. That represents roughly 25% of all global seaborne oil trade. And right now, China is quietly importing around 1.5 million barrels of Iranian crude oil every single day. Every single barrel is paid for outside of the US dollar system. They are using shadow fleets and obfuscated networks to bypass Western financial plumbing entirely. So let's talk about exactly why this is so dangerous for you and for me. This all comes down to the petrodollar system, the absolute bedrock of the American economy. Since the 1970s, countries have been forced to hold US dollars because they need them to buy oil. When Gulf states sold their oil, they took those billions of dollars and recycled them right back into US Treasury bonds. That perpetual demand is the only reason the US government can finance its massive deficits at relatively low interest rates. If Iran forces even a fraction of the Hormuz volume into yuan-only trade, that structural demand for dollars evaporates. But if it's just this Iran thing, that doesn't mean the dollar is going to collapse, right? Well, the thing is, it's not just this Iran thing. Look at what Saudi Arabia has been quietly doing behind the scenes. While the media distracts you, the Saudi central bank officially joined a platform called mBridge. This is a cross-border digital currency payment system built to completely bypass traditional Western correspondent banking networks. Oh, and in case you didn't know, the whole mBridge thing happens to be driven by Chinese digital yuan. On top of that, Saudi Arabia and China established a massive 50 billion yuan currency swap line, which is roughly around 7 billion US dollars. So they are actively building the exact financial infrastructure needed to exit the entire dollar system, right? They are laying the pipes so that when the time comes, they can just flip the switch and be off of the dollar. And it's not just them. BRICS nations are also currently testing, well, they are BRICS nations, but altogether, BRICS nations are currently testing something called the Unit. It's such a cool name. I love it. There used to be this TV show called whatever. It's an experimental digital trade settlement currency backed by 40% physical gold, and 60% of it is backed by a basket of local currencies, right? So they aren't trying to replace the dollar with a single new fiat currency. They are just building a parallel system where their dollar is completely irrelevant. But here's the bigger problem. The United States is currently sitting on $38.9 trillion in national debt. It's getting close to that 40 trillion number. Over the last 12 months, the debt grew at an average of over, I think, 7 billion every single day. Insane. And interest on that national debt is now the second largest spending category in the entire federal budget. The Federal Reserve is completely trapped with this. They can't raise rates because it would bankrupt the government, and they can't cut rates because oil spiking over $100 a barrel is going to reignite inflation. So what are the options here? The US either accepts this new yuan-denominated trade corridor through the strait, which destroys the petrodollar system overnight, or the military commits to a prolonged multi-billion-dollar operation to force the strait open and protect a financial system that is already bleeding out. And guess who pays for that military operation? You do, through more debt and more inflation. Of course, we always end up footing the bill for this shit. The dollar collapse was once thought to be decades away, but the Iran war has just handed China a golden ticket to accelerate its demise. And I say China because even though a lot of these moves seem to be coming from Iran, we all know who's really calling the shots behind the scenes. So what does this mean for us? I mean, for me personally, nothing much changes. I exited most of my US stocks months ago, and I'm focusing on holding hard assets like gold and silver. So it doesn't really change much, but it just reinforces my overall decision. I'll see you in the next one.